Good morning, everyone. It's so great to have our coaches here with us from your Sinclair Method Coaching. We've got going from, I'll go clockwise around my screen here. We've got Bruce Rose and then Matt Brindley. We've got Jody Green. We've got Samara McGee. I'm sorry, McGee. And we've got Steve Rowe. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves, and we'll go ahead and start with Bruce. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you love most about coaching.
Good evening across here in the UK. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Bruce Rose. I'm the co-founder alongside Matt, and we work with Steve with Rethink Drink. And we work exclusively with TSM here in the UK. And my background was alcohol and drug rehab center management. And the most incredible thing that I see about TSM coaching, etc., is, to be completely blunt, is it works. Having come from an abstinent-based background where I worked in rehab, I think we saw about a 5 to 10% success rate in the rehab. Great environment to work with, great people, but when you're constantly working in an environment where there are relapse after relapse after relapse, it's not an easy environment to be in. So the most incredible thing doing what we do with coaching is we are constantly seeing success. And compared to abstinent-based processes, that is night and day, and it's worth working whatever hours we work for it. So thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Bruce. And Matt, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Matt Brindley, and co-founder, coach at Rethink Drink. I'm a success story of the Sinclair method after battling through pretty much every abstinence-based option available, and just being on a treadmill of drink sobriety relapse. My kind of story took me to a very dark place. I managed to kind of claw that back through abstinence-based models, but ultimately I could just never maintain my sobriety. The longest period I ever did was 6 months, and that was with a combination of AA and a camprosate. Unfortunately, the camprosate which is an anti-craving medication, was only a 6-month course, and 6 months and 2 weeks later, I went back to day one again, and I got myself to a better place, and I could see the signs starting to come back again, and literally came across this wonderful American lady called Claudia Christian on YouTube one day, and that literally changed my life in that 14-minute video, or whatever it is. It's changed the course of my life. It's literally changed everything. My relationship with my children. I've got the trust back from my wife. What I do, day to day now is help people in their journey with the Sinclair method. And that's what, I've got to follow up with what Bruce said. It astounds me that this exists in the world and nobody is talking about it. And we need to change the narrative. I'm going on a bit here, but one of the headlines on the news this morning, they have these ribbons that come across the bottom of the page. In the last year, the alcohol-related deaths in the UK has gone up 47% based on the average of the last 4 years. So when are we going to stop and go, well, the process that we're using doesn't seem to be working? Is there an alternative here? And when do we change that narrative? How do we change that narrative? Because what we see, like Bruce, what Steve, as part of what we do, we are nothing like a 10%, failure rate. A 10% success rate. We are at the other end of that scale. We're at a 90% minimum success rate with what we do. And when do we start having that conversation a bit more? So yeah, that's me. Sorry. Ramble.
Oh, no apologies, Matt. I actually had a volunteer send me that and a summary of that this morning, right before I logged on. So yeah, that was pretty shocking to see that level of a rise, and it does really drive home why we do what we do, because those were strictly alcohol related deaths. Those weren't even alcohol and driving, alcohol and other things. That was direct alcohol. So yeah, that it was pretty notable. 40% plus jump is just, it's needless. It's absolutely needless. So we can come back and talk about that a little more later. I'm going to go ahead and Jody, go ahead and introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you love about TSM coaching.
Hi, I'm Jody Green, and I, like Matt, struggled for years and years with drinking. I never did go the route of AA officially, but I tried to make my own little programs of abstinence and different bargaining things that I did with myself for years that I would always fail at. And one night while I was drinking, I came across, I came across a site that gave me a quiz to see if I drank too much, which I knew the answer to, but I wanted to get some sort of reassurance that maybe I wasn't drinking that much, and found naltrexone. And it was a site that provided naltrexone, but they did not talk about TSM at all. So I began taking daily naltrexone, and about a month into that, which, I think probably a little bit of honeymoon period of me thinking it was going to work, I found TSM through actually Tamara and Katie Lane had a Q&A that I had joined, and I cried listening to the Q&A pretty much the entire hour. And that minute went on and joined with the program that they were talking about, and started following TSM, and was a really fast responder to the medication and the treatment. And it almost within probably a month, I knew that I wanted to get out there and spread the word, that I was going to be somebody who wanted to show other people this amazing treatment, that I couldn't believe that when I even went to my doctor basically asking to get medication, it was just cut down, you don't need medication. And the medication she was going to prescribe anyways was Antabuse. And, I've read enough about that to know that that wasn't going to be the route that was going to work for me. As soon as I felt like I was at a point where I was very, very close to extinction, I became a coach, and I've been coaching for about 1.5 years now. And my favorite part of it is just when people first meet with me, typically they've tried it on their own for a little bit, and they are frustrated because they don't think they're getting the response that they should be. They're not getting, they're not after 1 week alcohol free or where they want to be. And then when, I start having them track their drinks or journal or just look at smaller things, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is actually working. And that motivation and that little light in their eyes when they realize it's working, that just kind of snowballs into success, it just makes me so just so happy to help people. That's like one of my things in life, is just being out there helping people however I can, whether it's TSM or volunteering in other areas and things like that. So it was a little nerve-wracking at first to put myself out there and, have my colleagues and my coworkers and my family who didn't know I was doing this posting out there that I'm doing it. And the response I've gotten has been amazing. And I'm just so proud and humbled to be able to share my story and to help other people with it.
And you've really come full circle from finding TSM by watching a Q&A to sitting here as a coach, as a TSM coach, doing a Q&A. where, who knows who else is going to see this video and to say, oh, wait a minute, that could be me.
Yeah.
I have a way off the struggle bus. Let me
Yes.
give it a try.
And one other thing, just a note that last night I was thinking about joining this call today, and I just came to tears to think that I, for years, really contemplated suicide, and it was purely because of the drinking, because I was so frustrated that everything in my life I could do and I could not conquer this. And last night I was laying there thinking, and I'm like, since week 1 on this medication, I haven't thought about it one time. Not once. Not one time has it entered my brain. And I just thought, wow, for years and years of feeling that way, that this could bring me that sort of peace is just amazing. And I just want everybody to be able to feel that way, really.
That is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure that will resonate with a lot of people, because sometimes when you feel absolute despair and like nothing is ever going to change, and that, maybe this is my fault that I feel this way, to go from there to say, yeah, no, I'm good, it's not an easy task, and it's literally life-saving. And
Definitely.
and I think there are a lot of people out there who may find that resonates with them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Samara, go ahead and introduce yourself and talk a little about what you love about TSM coaching.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for having me here. And it's good to see all of you. My name is Samara, and I am a coach at Thrive Alcohol Recovery. And just so you guys know, Jody, I had something in my eye previously. And then when you shared, I got all teared up. And now I don't have that thing in my eye anymore. So thank you. Yeah, you had me in tears. I was just so moved by your share. But yeah, so my background, a lot like you guys, my whole adult life, I struggled with AUD since the time I was 18 years old, and about 27 years, struggling. For the last 15 of that period, I was in AA and struggling with chronic relapsing. So I resonate so much with Bruce, what you said about seeing your patients like that. And that was me. I was one of your patients. I was like that. I was just chronically failing in that area, and I could not understand why. For the life of me, in other areas, I seemed to be doing okay. Like I wasn't getting fired from a job. I had a career. I knew I could have been doing better in life, deep down, I knew that. But, I wasn't like out on the streets or getting a DUI or, anything like that. And that's basically what I want to say, is that I've gotten this freedom from that chronic relapsing, and freedom from the cravings and those those torturous cravings and urges to drink that I used to deal with. And that is why I became a coach. That is literally why I had to spread this freedom to others. Like I see others, I even see friends of mine who are abstinent or sober for years, and they are not free because they are inside, they're a little bit miserable with their life because they're fighting back cravings, and they don't have to live that way. You don't have to, you can have this ultimate freedom. And so that's what I consider myself. I'm like a freedom fighter. Like that's what my mission is to show people that there is another way, and it's fairly easy, you know, as long as you're compliant with the medicine and you don't give up, and then getting a coach is a bonus. Getting a coach is going to help you get there faster, I believe, hands down. And then, and then you can experience this amazing freedom where you're not thinking about alcohol like ever. And you're never having a craving, and those urges to drink are long gone in the past. And your triggers are completely gone. Like every single trigger that I ever had to reach for a drink is obsolete. Like that doesn't exist anymore. I do not get triggers anymore. And so that's the message I just want to share with my clients and with everyone. You don't have to live with debilitating cravings. It's not a thing anymore. You don't have to. So.
And so one of the things you touched on there, some people call the meh moment, or that moment of indifference to alcohol where it just doesn't matter anymore. And I think that's one of the most exciting things. I never would have thought I could get so excited about hearing someone talk about being indifferent to anything before. But when you hear somebody who's struggled for decades say, yeah, I'm indifferent to alcohol. I could take it, I could leave it. Most of the time, I just decide it doesn't do anything for me. Like that's power. So thank you so much for your introduction, Samara. And let's go ahead to our 2024 Your Sinclair Method TSM Coach of the Year, Steve Rowe.
I don't like attention, Jenny. You know me. Stop it. Sorry, I'm Steve. I'm a TSM coach with Option Save Lives, and I work with Bruce and Matt. We're in Rethink Drink in the UK as well. I developed alcohol use disorder probably what I can pin down as over a 10-year period. I moved to London, got an absolute dream job for a 20-something-year-old in London, working in advertising, taking out clients and schmoozing them, taking them to fancy restaurants, bars, cocktails aplenty, not on my bill, my works credit card. And it was an absolute dream job for such a long period. But as I got older, I was drinking more and more. The Friday lunchtime drinks across the weekend turned into Thursday lunchtime drinks, turned into Wednesday lunchtime drinks. I was acknowledging there was a problem. The hangovers were getting worse. I was mentally and physically suffering in so many ways. And like Matt said, I just tried everything out there. I was Googling anything I could, any forms of therapy, trying everything. You're told, and society tells us that there's a deeper trauma in there and you're not going to stop your drinking until there's. So I was tugging away. When am I going to find out about this trauma? Trying every form of therapy. I wish I knew what I know now about that, being able to take away the problem neurologically. But after a while, I decided that I was going to turn my life on its head and quit my job, walk away from my flat, and move to Spain, Seville, where I'm still in Seville in Spain at the moment. Thinking that geography would solve all my alcohol problems, thinking that I was going to drink very slowly like a Spanish person, little beers rather than guzzling down the big pints in London. I just guzzled down the small beers even faster. And within 6 months, I just came completely crumbling down. And actually, it was one of those where it felt like Spain had been a bad decision. And everyone around me was like, you were just running away from your problems. But I actually needed to crash down to rock bottom rather than on this bumpy ride in London. But unfortunately, that when my family looked for support for me at that point, the only options out there were AA and rehab. They put me in rehab for a while, even knowing really that it wasn't the thing that kind of felt like it was going to work for me, but it was the only thing that they were told that they could do. And after rehab and then AA, I sat in the AA rooms for a while and I just felt completely numb. I thought that rock bottom had come at that point with my family having to step in, but actually being in the rooms just took me to a different side of rock bottom, where I just felt like I was giving up everything for life and told not to trust my instinct anymore. And you can see in the rooms how that really does work for some people, and how they need that kind of level of support. But after a while, I decided to use my instinct, even though I was told not to. And I went to visit a psychiatrist here in Spain, a modern thinking guy, who literally just in one meeting just told me about this medication called naltrexone and the program Sinclair method. And the rest was history, really. It was just one of those things that just hit me straight away. And I knew it was going to be right. And as soon as I took the medication, had a drink, I was like, this is the right path for me. I still see the psychiatrist now, and every time I go into his room, I hug him. And his professional side, you can see he doesn't want to hug me back, but I don't care. I throw myself at him. So it changed my life with that. And then now my life is completely different. I feel like I've been allowed to start afresh, rebuild a new life. And it is the best job in the world to be a TSM coach. And Jenny, you asked what my favorite part about it, other than being able to put my own stamp on it and my own advice and be able to say that happened with me, and guide people that way. It's the fact that compared to my experience with abstinence and AA is that there's hope. There's no dwelling on the past. There's no going back over years of regrets and traumatic memories. We have a laugh in my sessions. We have a joke. There's obviously hard times. There's peaks, there's troughs, but we have a good time because we can see that the thing that we're doing is building on the future. And that for me is the nicest part of the job after going through my own story with alcohol. So that's me.
Well, thank you, Steve. So this next question is for everyone except you, Bruce, because this won't apply to you. So one of the things that Matt mentioned is that, you guys, like over at Rethink Drink, you're seeing around a 90% success rate. I've had doctors here in the States give similar success rates. The TSM on its own is about 75, 78. So can you talk about the role of support, both in your own journey and what you see in your clients, that brings that 78 up to that 90, 90 plus? So any of the four of you to whom that personally applies, go ahead and step in.
Yeah, I'll just jump in quick because it's been touched on. I think it was Jody, and it's this kind of, when we try the abstinent route and we keep hitting the brick wall, we keep making them promises to ourselves, we keep making them promises to our loved ones and our family, and then we can't maintain that promise. And then we have moments of sobriety, and then we have to go back to day one again. Well, it just keeps stealing that confidence, that self-worth, and it's just a treadmill and just on repeat, and it grinds you down. And ultimately you're ground down that much that reaching for the drink is literally one of the only things that will clear your mind, to clear your conscience of it, and just allow you to kind of park that for a bit while I just get some clarity. And that's what kind of leads us on this loop. When you come into TSM, I think a lot of people, we want it to happen straight away. And when it doesn't happen straight away, because it really doesn't happen, it's such a small subsection of people that it happens quickly for. It's almost not even worth talking about it. But there is a subsection that it does happen quickly for. But for the majority, it takes time. And, when we talk about this, this lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence, we immediately look for the negative. Oh, this isn't working. I'm drinking more today. I shouldn't have drank that. You just dial in on that negative straight away. And a coach is the one that kind of spots that and goes, well, hang on. That's not the, yeah, you read that. Yeah, you listened to her story and that was great. And you've watched this video with this guy, and it all, the stars aligned for him and it was magical. But when you don't feel that and experience it, you think that you're the odd one out, whereas you're just watching somebody else's highlight reel. The reality is, as coaches, we're working with people every single day, seeing that journey every single day. And it's about picking up them small wins. Did you pour that last bit of, even that last mouthful, just have a focus on that, pour that last mouthful away. Hey, do you know what? That kind of flavor tasted a bit weird there. I didn't enjoy that so much. Hey, you know what? I didn't go to the shop on the way home today. Hey, you know what? When we came back, I didn't, I had a beer instead of going straight into the vodka. It's little wins as small as that. Those are the little things that you've got to build upon and gather that momentum together to, kind of build that new relationship with alcohol. Like I said on the last call here, you don't get to take a pill and change overnight your relationship with alcohol. You don't get to. Like, don't feel that there's a shortcut to come. TSM is the shortcut. Don't shortcut the shortcut. Okay, play the game. There's new rules here, and there's new rules to learn. And a coach ultimately is the one that's going to help you and guide you through that. The other thing I would say, it's not generic either. It's really hard to give on a call like this. It's good to give generic advice, and this is how you might find it go. But we're all so individual. Like, the reasons I drank are going to be the different to Steve's. The amount that I drank will be the completely different to Jodie's. The way that we look at alcohol and the reasons, we're all completely different. The length of time that I drank will be completely different to Samara's. We're all just different. We have it all in different ways. When genetically we're different, the tablet reacts to us in different ways. Some people have a few side effects. Some people just can carry on. Some people do have an immediate reaction. Some people can take months before they get that. And it's, a coach can see that. And because they've seen it in many other people before, they know how to manage that and manage that expectation. And ultimately lead people to a reduction at a safe level as well. Because it's quite easy if you do get the reaction, is to jump way too far ahead of the medication. You jump far ahead of the medication, you haven't changed the habits in place so that, to fall in line with that. You can either fall behind the medication or go ahead of it. And it's important to stay and move alongside at the same time. So, lots of reasons. But yeah, take TSM out of this, like, completely. Even the best people at the height of their careers have coaches. Ed Sheeran has a singing coach. Lewis Hamilton has a driving coach. Why? Because they get the optimum performance out of that person. They unlock what they can't unlock. They spot them blind spots. And, take TSM out of it. Why would you need a coach? Well, do you want to be the best that you can be? Ultimately, it's about helping someone along as well. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else want to weigh in?
That pretty much sums it all up. The only thing I'll say is that being individual people and everyone having different, responses to the medication and the treatment, also giving different tips and tricks that work. And you try something one week and it doesn't work, that's okay. We'll try something else. There's so many different tricks that you can, tricks aren't really the right word, but tips that you can offer people to. I find the biggest thing, people have easier times having alcohol-free days than they do cutting back on the drinking that they're doing, at least at the beginning, on their drinking days, and coming up with ways to, putting the drink further away from you so you have to actually get up and get the drink, or putting a non-alcoholic beverage in between and seeing that you're really thirsty. You're not really wanting that drink, you're just thirsty for something. There's so many little tips that you can offer that, it's not a straightforward path for everyone. And some things work for some people that don't work for others. And the coach is really there, I think, to help give you those tips and to encourage you along when one thing doesn't work. Try this one. We've got lots. Don't get frustrated when one thing doesn't work. It's like that. I feel like I'm almost a cheerleader at some point to be like, it's fine, don't worry. So this didn't work. We're going to try other things and we're not going to give up. And I think that really keeps a lot of people motivated, where if they were sitting at home doing TSM on their own, maybe one thing doesn't work and they just think it's not going to work, period, and not seeing that there's so many things that we can try to help encourage you to be successful. I think that's one of the biggest things I notice, at least with people, is they're frustrated because one step didn't work and then they think it's just give up time.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think that's, I find that I think one of the most frustrating things for me is when I see somebody who is really doing well and they think that they're not. And they don't have that support to remind them constantly that, yeah, you're doing okay. You are actually doing a lot better than you think. Um, Samara or Steve, did you want to weigh in, or maybe even say, what the difference was in your personal journey between before you had a good level of support and after?
Yeah, I'll just jump on quickly. I think I mentioned this in the last live as well. Is it something that I've been able to see quite clearly is with working with Rethink Drink in the UK, it's obviously a program starting right from the start in terms of getting the medication and working with you from the first time that you take the pill. And working with Options Save Lives is more of a it's more of a kind of jump into coaching at a point when you feel like you're ready to do so. So when I came into this, I was expecting people to come in from the start, heard about the Sinclair method, obtained medication. Could you support me through this? But what I've realized seeing the two different stories is that if you have a coaching from the start, you're able to use the momentum that comes with the medication. Most people get that real boost from the start. They see how powerful the medication is, and they use that to see, hang on, this is something that's really going to take me forward and help me. This is going to help me build a new life. Whereas there can be a bit of a kind of like a flat note if you come into the coaching later. It's encouraged. There is no too late in terms of getting coaching, but we find that I think that, and I'm sure the other guys will agree with me, if you come in a little bit later, you've lost that momentum of just the medication. So you've lost a little bit of hope in it when you're already suffering with low self-esteem from having alcohol problems anyway. So you're kind of you're having to build again, almost going at it at a second time. And it can take a little bit longer to see results. So for me, the coaching is for something that even when I first qualified in this, I thought that people could probably find their own way with it. And then it can be a real great luxury to have coaching. I do not think that anymore after working with people. I think it's a necessity to have coaching as well. And all I'm saying is that to do it right from the start is going to set you off on the right note, basically. It's my experience.
Okay, so here's a question for anyone who would like to field it. And I don't think we've ever asked this question of our coaches before, but a lot of people come into the Sinclair method because they have, they've just really experienced the worst of the worst in treatment options. Many people have had incredibly bad situations with therapists and things like that. And so they can tend to have a hesitancy to reach out to any professional at any level for help. So whoever would like to jump in, can you answer the question about what is the difference between having a TSM coach and what you would find in therapy and in a therapist? And so hopefully maybe we can bridge this gap to show the differences and why having a TSM coach should not be as scary or as equated with having a therapist who may or may not be supportive.
I'll jump in. I think the biggest thing, what drives most people when they first reach out to me is that they've seen my story either on, the Thrive platform or on the OR site, or just even seeing my postings that I've done on Facebook and LinkedIn. I think knowing that they're coming to someone who's been there, and I do feel like there's some aspect of counseling that happens, even if it's not real true therapy when you're coaching someone, because, things come up and you talk about it, you talk about what your triggers are. But I personally think that it's just the non-judgmental. I've been there. My first session with everybody I think almost everyone I've met with, they've been hesitant to talk about how much they really drink or some of the things that they've done. And I am always very open at the beginning about, there's nothing you can tell me that you've done that I would be judgmental about, because I've probably done worse, or I've probably drank more, or I've probably embarrassed myself more, or done something twice as, detrimental to myself. And I think that really helps, because you can have
Oh no, you just froze. Oh no. Jody has frozen. Is everyone else good, or is this only freezing on my part? Oh, lovely. I think everybody's frozen except for me. So let's. Oh, there goes my Zoom. No.
And you.
I am so sorry, Jody. Something happened with my computer and it totally froze. And at first I thought it was just you, and then I realized everyone was frozen. So,
Okay. I'll just, wherever I left off, we'll just say I've been there and I just want to help people get to where I am, and there's no judgment from me.
Well, and what I did hear from you is that you can have a more of that personal hands-on sharing with a coach, whereas there's a really strict line of professional um, detachment that comes with therapists, and so it's a little, I would say, more warm from and more of the ability to actually have that understanding.
Yeah, the relationship, I'm relating to what you've been at because I've been there, and I'm not judging you because, gosh, I've been judged, and I've been probably my harshest judge for the longest time. Never going to do that to somebody else. And I just want to help you. And if you have a bad day and you are not compliant one day and you're afraid to come to that coaching session because you're going to tell me something you don't think is good, I'm going to just say, you're not starting at day one again. You get to just continue this journey, and we're going to get right back to it.
So Jody has just said something that comes up over and over and over again. And so, again, this question is open to all the coaches to jump in on. What's your advice when you get that inevitable question? I messed up last night. Am I back to day one? Have I lost all of my progress on TSM?
This is my favorite question because I just love to say we're not in AA. You don't have to get to day 59 and almost have that 60-day chip and you go back to day one. It is a continuous journey. You never go back. You always just keep building on what you've done, and we just keep on going, and you don't have to start over again. That's what I love, love, love about TSM. You're not failing. You're not going back to start. You're just continuing your journey.
So, Bruce, we haven't heard from you for a while. What's your favorite question that people ask you?
Question that Jody was just talking about. I've got a bit of a controversial answer. Not controversial. I've worked in rehab for years, and I saw so many people go through so much therapy in rehab, whether it's counseling, psychologists, psychiatrists, group work, one-to-one key workers, and they would walk out the rehab and relapse. And I couldn't figure out, why is it, do they need more therapy? We're not giving them the right therapy. What's going on here? When you start to understand the science of AUD and you drink alcohol, the brain becomes addicted to endorphin. Once the brain becomes addicted to endorphin, you will never, ever, 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 in my opinion, get someone to go to therapy to beat the addiction. It will never happen. You can send someone to counseling till they're blue in the face. It's not going to deal with the brain's addiction to endorphin. They can go to a psychologist till they're blue in the face. It's not going to deal with endorphin. Any single thought of therapy, we're trying to, as Matt was saying earlier on, we're trying to deal with a neurological addiction to a chemical called endorphin with therapy. Therapy is dealing with emotional, psychological things. Now, we're never going to deal with that issue with therapy. So now, when I've got to always add this on at the end, because then people say, my wife is a counselor. I believe in counselling till the cows come home. However, if we're going to use counselling to deal with the neurological condition, it's never going to happen. So once the brain becomes addicted to the endorphin, we have two separate issues. We have an addiction to the endorphin, and we have emotional psychological issues. So we have to separate them, and we have to treat them as two separate issues. So the reason for the coaching, and the coaching is so important, is the coaching is dealing with the medication is dealing with the endorphin. The coaching is dealing with the alcohol reduction program, which is a method in itself. And then, as people are reducing, once we've got the drink under control and everything else under control, if there are underlying emotional, psychological issues, now is the time to get the therapy. But if we're using the therapy to deal with the addiction, that's why we have a 90% relapse rate.
Well, and you would never send somebody who has diabetes, you wouldn't say, okay, we're going to treat it with therapy or cancer. You know, it's you don't treat a medical condition like that. And believe me, I know anxiety is a medical condition and that therapy can help that, but you wouldn't treat a medical condition that you need medication for with a therapist. It's just, you can't cure that way, in my opinion. I mean, obviously not my opinion, it's true.
Yeah, you know, just to chime in, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there with that, Bruce. We're trying to fix problem A with something that can't be fixed with, you know, that solution. It doesn't work. The piece of that puzzle does not fit in that space. It literally doesn't. So you've hit the nail on the head. Sorry, when you said earlier, Jenny, therapist is the word you use. So a counselor, I think Jody said counselor. So the difference really between a counselor and the coach is a counselor looks at your past up to the present. So a counselor doesn't look into the future. It doesn't look even at today. It looks in the past. So whether you've got trauma, anything in the past, PTSD, anything like that, their job is to unbox that and put that back in the box in a more flavorable way, the way that you can digest it and understand it. That's not what a coach does. A coach takes you from this point here today and says, what future do you want? Let's create a plan to get there. And ultimately, that's exciting. You know, we have to take what's come in the past because it's brought us to today. Yeah, it's made us the person we are today, and ultimately we have to be grateful for that, because without those experiences, whatever they are, they make they make us the person that we are today. But it's what we do then now. Like, this is what I've done. That was my past. But this is the future I want for myself. That's the person I see myself being. Cool. Well, let's put a plan together and let's work together. Let's put some structure in place. Let's hit some checkpoints along the way and let's create that person. Let's take a few shuffles in his steps, her steps today to get there. 3, 6, 9, 12, 5 years times, whatever. Let's start that journey. And that's what a coach does. And that's the difference between a coach and a therapist.
Thank you. That is a great explanation. And I don't think I've heard it framed in quite that way before. So I love it. You're just my soundbite man today.
Wingman.
So as we talk about, I want to go back to the whole something Bruce just said about how traditional treatments want to treat the psychological without treating the physical. And yet one of the biggest misconceptions about the Sinclair method is that it only targets the physical, which you guys wouldn't even be here as coaches if that were the case. So can we talk about why the Sinclair method and getting the proper support is just simply a more complete way and more holistic way to approach recovery in general? Because it does target both the medical side and also encourages people to work on those psychosocial support needs.
Sorry, just to say again, I think the biggest mistake that we see happening is that, and it's going to get more and more as naltrexone gets more and more popular, that the pill does everything for you. You swallow a pill and you ride off into the sunset and everything's great. But without the coaching, without the support, there are very, very specific stages that people go through the method of reduction and through that whole process. So people need to be guided, like Jody was saying. Sometimes people just need to hear you're doing okay. Sorry, you were saying it, Jenny. You're doing okay. It's just keep going. You're on track. You're reducing. You're doing well. So the pill does what it does from a neurological point of view. The science is the pill, the neurological process that does all of that in science for us. But we are human beings. Claudia says it as well, so well now, that she says that we're human beings. We're going to emotionally react at Christmas time. We're going to emotionally react to something that goes on. So we need someone to help us through that whole process. How do I deal with TSM when it comes to Christmas? What do I do with TSM when I go to a wedding on Saturday? How do I deal with this situation? So you need, as Matt's saying, you need someone to sort of say, okay, well, this is where we're at. All other programs, abstinence-based programs, are focused on the past. Whereas what Matt's saying is that we're coaches. This is where you're at the moment, and this is how we can move forward. And then, if someone has been through PTSD, if we've got our forces guys or medical people, a lot of people have been through extreme trauma, then we can then signpost them onto that one. So, like you're saying, it's a whole process. It's not just a case of taking the pill. And we see so many people in the UK just thinking, oh, I'm taking my pill and I saw a little reduction. Now it's leveled out and nothing's happening. Do I need to take more medication? It's like, well, no, you just need to involve the whole process.
And I just wanted to say on that I think people start out, and I even did this. Most people start out wanting it to be a magic pill, so they'll read a little bit behind the scenes. They'll listen to you in your first appointment. They're like, "Yeah, but I'm sure I'll be the exception. It'll be a magic pill, and everything will go perfectly for me." So you go into it wanting it to be a magic pill. You come out of it being so glad that it's not just a magic pill, and there's a more holistic journey to it, because going through it, without sounding too cheesy, you just learn so much about yourself. And then when you're building, you have all these realizations. That's a therapy in itself, actually, when you're having these realizations of why you were drinking in certain situations. I've had it recently myself, still further down the line. And then building in new habits that you've lost so much confidence through alcohol problems that you don't think that you are able to build new habits anymore. And this is it. It's so liberating to get those moments through the program and chatting that through with someone and getting the reassurance, getting the motivation, getting the accountability. By the time you come out of it, you're like, I'm glad I had to kind of fight through that a little bit as well, and talk through some of the different things that come hand in hand with alcohol, rather than just taking a pill and removing that side of things and living life as I was.
Thank you, Steve. So here's something I would love to have. Again, anyone can jump in on this. Steve just mentioned that people often think that they're going to be the exception to an immediate response and everything happening overnight. And yet, at the same time, they tend to simultaneously believe they are going to be the exception and it's not going to work for them at all. So can you talk about how you help navigate people through this complete conflict of beliefs that they can't be, it can't both work immediately for them, and they're going to be one of the ones that it doesn't work for? But it comes up a lot.
It's just going to see if anyone else is moving first. I think ultimately, it kind of drives back to what I was saying earlier. When we've had years of relapse, and it's sad to say, but let's talk about me. I had years of failure. Ultimately, 100% of the time that I ever tried to get a handle on my drinking, I failed. 100%. So when you embark in anything in terms of trying to get a handle on your drinking, you start to get a negative, oh, it's not working for me. That's failure straight away. That's the sign of it. And you've got to bear in mind, as humans, like we've got this conscious and subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the one that wants the change. It knows that we need to be healthier. It knows that our livers are not going to put up with this forever. That we're rolling the dice with different cancers, and ultimately we all know that alcohol is not the healthiest thing, and we want these change. Well, that's the conscious mind. It wants that change. The subconscious mind is the one that's driving the behavior. The subconscious mind, by the way, is responsible for autonomous behaviors like breathing, your heart rate, your blinking, all of these things. You can go to sleep and it will still run these systems in the body. Now, the subconscious mind, when you tip into dependency, the subconscious mind adopts your dependency into its system. So it starts to run these autonomous behaviors. So when you say, people that can't control it, they've got no choice. It's not their conscious mind that's making the decisions. It's the subconscious mind that is making those decisions and forcing that behavior through. And Steve's just hit the nail on the head with what he said here. You start to discover yourself. And the reason you start to discover yourself, because the conscious mind that wants the change and wants to make these things happen starts to get its own way. That starts, slowly but surely, I did put that drink down. Hey, I said I wasn't going to drink and I didn't. And then slowly that confidence then starts to build up. Hey, I'm getting some momentum here. What else can I do? I can start to make other changes in my life. Now I've got that control back around my drinking. I can start exploring that relationship. I can start being more present with people. I can start, going to the gym and training a bit more, because I was pinned back, for so long with that subconscious mind driving the behavior. Now that the conscious mind's taken over, this is the real me. Like I say, I'm Matt version 2. Because this is me. This is the real version of me, and this is my conscious mind that's making and controlling the decision. I'm not running and trying to make a deal with the subconscious mind of not drinking or don't go in that shop. I'm not going to do that tonight, and that constant, that battle. By the way, when we're talking about this, 2:00 in the afternoon, should I have a drink tonight? No, you said you weren't. Well, I know, but my wife's out tonight. She won't know. I'm on holiday tomorrow. I've had a bad day. I've had a good day. That conflict that everybody has in addiction, that's your conscious mind and your subconscious mind literally having an argument in your head. Yeah. And ultimately, the subconscious mind won 100% of the time. With TSM now, the conscious mind starts to win. And the more it wins, the more confidence, the more self-worth, the more self-belief, on and on and on. That's the guy we want to be, the person we want to be, going forward. So, I hope that kind of hits that in a nutshell.
It sounds a lot like resilience building, which if we want to go ahead, we got just about 4 or 5 more minutes left. So if anyone wants to talk about how having a coach can help somebody build resilience.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. That was so good, Matt. Oh my gosh, so much of what you guys have said today. I'm learning a lot from you all. So I wanted to touch on this. A lot of times my clients come to me with what I call a worthiness wound. And it stems from all of that self-doubt from all of those years and years and maybe even decades of failure after failure. And so they come to me very broken. And one of the things that I tell them, especially like on their first coaching session, is, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you developed this. It's not your fault. It can virtually happen to anyone. It's not your fault. And so recently I had a client come back to me. He, after a whole year, he reached extinction and he came back and he just wanted to thank me for telling him that one thing that I told him way back in the beginning on our first call. And he remembered that I had told him that, and it had stuck in his mind throughout the whole year. And so that was just a really touching moment, because the things that we say to people, like, it may reverberate, it may stick in their minds over the course of a year, and then they reach extinction, so just a little success story there from one of my clients.
And that is just absolutely just so wonderful to hear, Samara, because that so many people have been told for most of their lives, or at least their at least their drinking life, that this is your fault. Why won't you stop? Why can't you stop? Why are you choosing this? And so I think for a lot of people, sometimes having a coach could be the first time someone actually has the opportunity to hear that this is not their fault.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, Bruce, Steve will take. We offer free screening calls, discovery calls. Just to. There's a lot of information out there, and sometimes it can be conflicting, and it's good to speak to someone about you and your circumstance. And the amount of people on these screening calls or discovery calls that are in floods of tears, like, not only are they kind of hearing for the first time, this isn't my fault, and this is a neurological condition that we can treat with a medication, but also that there is a hope, even for a lot of people. Like, it's surprising how many people say this, like, and they say, I have never told anyone this before. I've never let anyone in. Even my wife, who knows I've got a problem, I've talked to her about it, I've never told her this deep. Because you can't be honest with anyone. When your only option is abstinence, what you're signing there is, the declaration that I literally can't go back from this. That was my thing. Even though I let my wife in, never, ever, ever told her the full truth, because I would worry sick that she would be worried sick about me. Yeah, it's mad. Yeah, I love that, Samara. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This is who would choose a life like that? Like, I look back now and I think, as if I chose to be like that. Like, I was literally trying to be the opposite to that. There was no choice in the matter.
Well, again, I want to thank all of my coaches for being on this call today. You've shared invaluable, potentially life-saving information, life-changing for certain, and and I appreciate what you guys do every single day, and I appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy week to spend an hour online talking with our Twitch community, and thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jenny.